Coming up this morning on the Dattitude podcast, someone has to take up the slack for Taysom Hill. Who will it be? Could it possibly be a running back already on the roster who has been an afterthought since being drafted a couple of years ago? Also, just how dumb is Dan Campbell? We'll touch on that, and I will tell you why his actions of last night proved he will never lead the Lions or any other team to a Super Bowl victory. And have we talked enough about the college football conference championships? I have no idea what Gabe Henderson has for me this morning, or you, for that matter. It's Friday. Larry Holder will be here. Let's get to it.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? Have you walked outside this morning? It is a little nippy. I had to get like the thick overcoat, the big trench coat. I had to like dig in. I don't think I wore it last year. I had to like dig deep into the closet. It is a cold one, but it's a good morning. And this is Dattitude, episode number 319 for a Friday, December the 6th, 2024. The show is presented, of course, by our friends at Evangeline Securities. We'll tell you about them this morning. We're changing the opening format of the show just a little bit, tweaked it. I know some of you in the Dattitude family is like, a little weird this morning. What's going on? It's a little weird. We're trying to get into the show a little bit quicker so we can get into the comments quicker, especially those of you who are with us from the opening moments of the pod. It's been taking us too long to get into that. So we're going to do that here this morning. Oh, good Lord. I didn't see we had that many comments already. Charles, good morning. Good game last night. Lions pulled it out. Yeah, I'm getting into that in a minute. That is the lead topic this morning. Good morning, S. Callie. Apathy. I already seen the report from ESPN that Loomis will be back next season. No fan should be excited with status quo. I wouldn't believe too much you read from ESPN. And I'm going to tell you why. It was on the Final Bet show last night. The decision is going to be made by Mickey first, but it would not surprise me at all. And I know I've been saying it's all up to Mickey. And so this message is probably coming through to ESPN from Mickey Loomis. However, there's more to it. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to talk about it with Larry Holder in a little bit. Good frozen morning, Randall. You are correct, man. I'll tell you what. Brought my daughter out to the bus stop this morning. No joke. She was like, woo! She wasn't expecting that. I don't think any of us were. Kyle Sherman, good morning. You notice that Uncle Big Nick likes to tell us when he's 1-0, but he never tells us when he's 1-4 or worse? Just saying. Good morning, Jerry. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Happy Friday indeed. What else we got? We got Gary. Good morning. Gary, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know how you pronounce your name. I'm usually pretty good at last names, but that one's Baline? Good morning, Gary. And I know you're a regular. See your name all the time. Appreciate you being here. Dylan Smith. Good morning, who that's? Great game from LSU women's basketball. Didn't say it. I mean, basketball does not exist in the grand scheme. Although, I say that it doesn't exist. Can't say that it doesn't fully exist. The Pelicans won. How the hell did that happen? 126-124 over the Suns. Exactly, Charles. 9-game losing streak is over. ABI trade Zion. Not getting into the logistics. We got too much stuff. We got too much stuff that's important to talk about this morning. Pels are 5-18, but they're 4-7 at home. Randall. Just wait. I'm getting into Dan. He is a moron of epic, and I mean epic proportions. The NFC is going through Detroit, not for long. They might lose in the first game they play. I don't even care who it is. They pull the crap they pulled last night. They ain't going anywhere. High school semifinals tonight. Good luck to all the teams. 16 teams participating tonight, and no, it's more than that, right? There's 16 semifinals, right? God, I gotta do Shaw math. So that means there are 32 teams left tonight. Good luck to all 32. I know you can't have a good luck. 16 are going to win, 16 are going to lose. Even I can figure that out. Tonight is it's a bittersweet night for me. As most of you know, I do play-by-play on the side. Shaw, tonight, it'll be man. I'm really trying to stop saying it's hard to believe because everything's hard to believe at this point when you get this old. But here we are going into week 14 of the high school season, which means it's my last night broadcasting, or at least for TV, doing high school football until next September. That's sad. There's a chance, if Shaw wins, a slight chance that we would do a radio-type broadcast. We'll see. Shaw's got to win first, and they got a tough one. Madison Prep, that is going to be a really tough game. Nick says, even though I'm going to lean on him to buy him dinner, that's because he won the $20K. He's buying me. He hit the $20K in DFS. I haven't, he doesn't know this yet, but if Shaw wins tonight, I might have to hit him up for a little sponsorship so we can do the game next week. That's a whole different story. All right, anyway. All right, hold off in the comments for a minute, Gabe. I have a mini Derry's dime this morning. Before we get to the Saints, before we get to the ad, before we get to Gabe, Larry Holt is coming on. I want to talk. I have a pre-done script. I'd be pissed off if I were a Lions fan right now. I'm not joking. I really would. And I know it's hard to get pissed off about a team that's 12-1. If I were a Lions fan, this is why I fear, it's great to take that next step. It's great to be, considering where they were, it's wonderful. But last night proves a lot to me, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm so sick of dumbass NFL fans saying how fun Dan Campbell is. He's reckless, and while obviously he's played a large role in making over a moribund franchise, he is the number one reason they didn't make it to the Super Bowl last year. There's no 1A. There's no 1B. He is the number one reason why the Lions didn't make the Super Bowl last year. And he's the reason why he will never win a Lombardi Trophy as a head coach. You can cut this out. You can save it for me. You can play it back whenever you think his coach team. I could be 79 years old, still doing this show, and Dan Campbell somehow wins a championship. Play it back at me. That's how sure I am he's never going to win a Lombardi Trophy as a head coach. The media loves what he does as well because it's different. And he's new school. I'm old school. He's new school. In case you went to bed early and you didn't see how the Lions-Packers game ended last night, ignore ESPN's headline that reads, Dan Campbell's fourth down gamble helps Lions beat Packers 34-31 and clinch playoffs. That couldn't be more wrong. What it should have read was, Lions survived Packers despite Dan Campbell's completely unnecessary fourth down gamble. 4th and 1 at the Green Bay 21 with 43 seconds remaining. You got it? If you didn't see the game last night, 4th and 1, picture it in your head. They're at the Green Bay 21. That's right. Just outside the red zone with 43 seconds remaining. Score is tied at 31. What would any normal, rational human being with an ounce of football knowledge do here? Remember yesterday when we were talking about Dan Campbell's got the little nerdy guy with the computer and the analytics card standing next to him. Gotta go for it here, coach. Even the nerd was no, coach, kick the field goal. Even the dumbass little 5'4" nerd was standing there going, don't do it, coach. You kick the field goal. You kick off and Green Bay gets the ball at their own 30 with 38 seconds left. But Derry, the Packers could have driven down 40, 50 yards and kicked the field goal themselves. Well, since many of you numbnuts love the little 5'4" nerd with the analytics card, we'll use him here. Detroit's percentages of winning the game when it was 4th and 1, what was it? What do you think it was? When it was 4th down and 1, before he went for it, it was 91.6%. Guess what it was after they got the first down conversion? 91.8%. You risk not getting it on 4th down, which at best means overtime if you don't get it, for 0.2%. 0.2%. 0.2%. You'll have people out there, of course, saying, bravo, bravo, at least he's consistent. Consistency doesn't make you good. It often makes you look like an idiot. A friend told me last night, quote, well, players love him. Well, they can love him in February when they're eating a bag of Tostitos and fake nacho cheese on their couch, watching the Eagles or Packers in the Super Bowl. Same friend on the previous similar decision late in the third quarter, which they didn't get. Well, they were 12 of 18 on 4th down this year. My response is, I don't give a damn if they were 17 of 17 going into that down. Doesn't make it less stupid. I just don't get it. 0.2 is better than 0.0. Well, I needed some Jesuit math to help me out this morning. It's also not worth any kind of risk. It's moronic. He's moronic. He's a horrendous, and I mean horrendous, head coach who happens to have two fantastic coordinators. Although I got to say, I was not impressed with Ben Johnson's play calling last night at all. I'm just saying. A-Town, where you been? Good morning. Welcome back. David Hubble is freezing his melatonin off the vine in Mobile. Go for a little melatonin soup. My wife made, I'm going off the rails. You know, get me. Good morning, Adam. Welcome. Randall says that's new school football. I'm not getting used to it. It's not going. You want to bet that it's not going anywhere? Okay. Good morning, Emily. I've explained this to you before. I know you got a thick skull. I know it's tough to understand this. It's like a lot of other things in life. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. Everything in life is a cycle. And the stupid crap gets weeded out. And that's stupid crap. You won't hear. I would be willing to bet. I'm not kidding. I would be willing to bet that in about within 10 years, it may take a little while. Within 10 years, you won't even hear about analytics anymore. It's a new fad and a new thing. It's like a lot of things in life, not just sports. It's fun because it's different. But when you realize at some point different is stupid, and the coaches that win championships are the old school coaches. Who's won the last two championships, by the way? Who's the dude that won the last two Super Bowls? Oh, Andy Reid, who started coaching before I was born. Get out of here. If you think that's good football, you go play Madden. This isn't Madden football. I'm sure you can. I haven't played Madden football in probably 20 years, but I'm sure you can press a button and it tells you what the analytics are. Does it? I don't know. Gabe, do you play? No? Who cares? Football is about having the players, which the Lions do, but it's also about solid, smart coaching. Matt LaFleur, who is younger than Dan Campbell, on the other side, and lost last night, but I think is a just tremendously better coach than Dan Campbell, with not quite the horses. I would much rather be a fan of the Green Bay Packers. He coaches almost sort of an old school way. Not fully. But even if you like the new school way, and I have friends, and I was talking to them last night, texting with multiple friends last night. Most of whom like the new school, like the analytics thing. But that's not even analytics. That's just stupidity. Because you're consistent and you go for something on 4th down, that is eventually going to get you killed. He proved it last year. He can't get out of his own way. Coaches who can't get out of their own way are going to lose. Just saying. Yeah. Remember Moneyball, Kyle? How'd that work out in baseball? It doesn't work anymore. Because people end up figuring things out, how to go against that, how to make those sorts of things not work. Just saying. You're at the 21-yard line. It's 4th down. I don't care if it's 4th down and a half of an inch. There's absolutely no reason to go for it, and the risk never is going to outweigh what you're going to get. They won? Sure. Because it works doesn't make it right. I'll say it 1,000 times. It's like I told Zach Ewing in the press box last week when the Saints went for it on 4th down from the plus 47 on the first drive of the game. And if you don't get it, the entire momentum right off the bat changes. Now, they lost anyway. Everything changes if you don't get that first down. And it's like I told Zach. And he like, oh, it worked. Yeah, it worked. So what? You can get away with things. You can get away with cheating on your wife for so long. And even if you don't get caught, it doesn't make it right. And you got to sleep with yourself at night, knowing how big of a moron you are. There you go. Before we get to Gabe and continue our story, I'm sure Dan Campbell's going to come up again. Might come up again in this little sponsorship moment. Before we get to Gabe, the Saints, and Larry, let me continue the story about our friends at Evangeline Securities. They would never, ever go for it on 4th down when they have victory in their grasp. Dan Campbell wouldn't even be allowed in the front door of Evangeline Securities unless he was trying to sell his family-run or privately held business. I heard that 4th and Moron was potentially up for sale. Anyway, back to the anti-Campbells. Of course, Evangeline will get you started by helping you figure out what your business is worth. They do that with a complimentary valuation. They will remain by your side and help you along the way, step by step, if you decide to proceed. They don't need an analytics card. Got their own computers, their own programs. Way better than the analytics card. More on them and this later in the show. But in the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. I get that you like it. Good for you. You like it. It's ruining the game. I'm telling you, it is ruining the game. It's not quite as bad as the golden at bat, but it is ruining the game. What do you think about, what did you think when you were watching that last night, Gabe Henderson?
I actually went to bed early.
You didn't see it?
I didn't see it.
Oh, man. Well, I'm sure you read about it this morning, right? Or did you
not? I read about it this morning when a bunch of my friends texted me about it, calling Dan Campbell a quote psychopath. Okay,
well, that's what I would want to know. Okay, you're a 20-something. You're on the fringe of millennial and Gen Z, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like right in the middle. All right, so I'm interested to know in what your friends think about this.
They think that Dan Campbell is a psychopath, but they absolutely love him.
See, that's what I'm talking about. He's great entertainment if you don't give a rat's ass about football. I mean, so if you're just watching the game and you want to watch a game of Madden, which you can do on YouTube, by the way, it's fun to watch in the grand scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
Uncle Big Nick says, by the way, even he stayed up.
Yeah, no, yesterday was the one day this week I went to bed. I've had a long week. One thing that I did want to touch on, and just baseball real quick, is Kyle Sherman asked, remember Moneyball? One of my biggest pet peeves, Moneyball's a fantastic movie. One of my biggest pet peeves is that they don't mention the players that the A's had that year. They don't mention the fact that they had Barry Zito and perhaps the best starting rotation in the league.
Yeah.
They also didn't mention Miguel Tejada once,
but
who won the AL MVP that year.
But there's a reason why they were able to have all that, though. It was partially.
No, definitely
you're not going to be able to sustain that. You can't keep all those guys, which is kind of the point.
No, I know, but the fact that I understand the pitchers. It is what it is. The fact that they didn't mention Miguel Tejada once, who was the AL MVP, is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
that's one of the biggest things missing from the movie. And then as far as the golden at bat rule, I actually saw a pitcher. I saw a pitcher asked about it yesterday. And he said, if this becomes a rule, he said, if this stupid thing becomes a rule, You know what I'm going to say to the batter when someone calls up a golden at bat rule? Go ahead, take first base. Have your free base. Yeah, just walk him.
That's hilarious. That would be
just
hilarious.
Walk him.
Yeah, they probably start fining
but you can't. That's the thing. If you can ban the intentional walk, but you can't fine pitchers for not throwing strikes if they're close. All you got to do is make it look close.
That's funny. All right, we are going to get into. We got plenty of Saints questions in the queue. I thank you for all of them. I'm going to get to them, whether it's me talking about them or talking about them with Larry in a little bit. I promise. All those Saints questions, there's all kinds of stuff in there. We're going to get to them. But what you got for me this morning? What is your one big thing this morning? I know you got something for me.
Yeah, Heisman.
Okay.
I just want to talk about the Heisman.
Right.
Yeah, we touched on it yesterday. And I want to preface my point with I think Travis Hunter is a fantastic player.
Mm-hmm.
But okay. I don't understand the odds makers and the voters making him a runaway favorite for the Heisman.
Podcast hosts?
Yeah, when Ashton Genty is doing what he's doing, I don't understand how you can look at that and say that Travis Hunter, you can say that he's de facto the best player in the country because he plays two positions. Whatever. Ashton Genty is pound for pound the best player in the country this year. And I think, as I said yesterday, I genuinely believe, I'm not going to say it's an egregious thing. I'm not going to take it that far. I genuinely believe that it's the biggest Heisman snub since Peyton Manning.
Yeah, that's out there.
Can you name a bigger one though? Okay, there really haven't been. If you go back and look,
here's the thing though.
Go ahead.
I don't even agree with you. First of all, that it's a snub because I think I would, if I had a vote, I would vote for Travis Hunter. And
I would vote for Genty,
and that's fine. And I think your point is valid about why he should be the Heisman Trophy winner. I don't have any problem whatsoever with your opinion. I think it's a very valid. All the points you make are valid, but here's why to say it's like a huge snub. I don't think it's a snub at all, and not just because I think because you could make such valid points for all. You have a point that there haven't been a lot of snubs, so I get that, but I just don't necessarily think it's a snub. I mean,
well, my point on the snubs is if you go back and look at it if you go look at like top 10 Heisman snubs or whatever, you're not going to find many from now. It's all 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Those are the big snubs apparently.
Yeah.
Please, Ashley, stop with the Cam Ward talk. There's not a single quarterback in the country who deserves the Heisman. It's really a 2-horse race. And if anyone thinks otherwise, they're lying to themselves.
Don't leave the pissing off the viewers to me.
But no, I'm just saying. Ashton Genty is the personification of what a Heisman winner should be. He has single-handedly, and I've said this. This isn't just a take that I cooked up specifically for this segment, this argument. Yeah. You've heard me say this in the past few weeks. Boise State is not the best group of 5 team in the country. 100%. They're really not. But Ashton Genty is the single most important player in the country to his team because he's taken what is otherwise a mediocre Boise State team.
I don't disagree with that.
And he has elevated them to the college football playoff. And not only that, he elevated them to a point where they were in position to beat the number 1 team in the country on the road, and they would have finished the regular season perfect.
I don't disagree with any of that. Really, I don't. I'm just saying. I think that the Buffaloes and they've screwed themselves. They're they had a chance to get in there and kind of screwed it up at the end. But I think the Buffs would have a losing record without Travis Hunter. So I mean,
well, and here's my biggest thing about Travis Hunter.
By the way, real quick, I got nothing against short people. Got plenty of reason.
And then Randall says this, but Randall, he's the closest thing to Barry Sanders we've seen in college since Barry Sanders, and it is perfectly reasonable that within the next 2 games he could break Barry Sanders' record for the most single season rushing yards. So there's that.
Look,
if he does that,
there's lots of things. So again. I have no problem. There's plenty of times when I say if you vote for such and such a person, I think you're an idiot. Okay, I'm not that I ever hold my opinions back, but in this case, I mean, I think there are more than 2 people this year, in my opinion, who have a legitimate claim. If you vote for any, like the people who go, the 5 guys who go to New York or whatever it is, I think they all 3 guys. It's only 3. I thought it was 5.
Yes, Randall. Darius Geis was better than Leonard Fournette at LSU. He was. Leonard Fournette was what Saquon Barkley was in college.
I don't think.
He would get a ton of carries in a game, and that wouldn't really do much, but then he would break off 1 to 2 big runs that made his stats look a lot better than they actually were. Darius Geis was a better running back than Leonard Fournette at LSU, so let's not even talk about that.
I mean, Darius Geis may have been more effective. I don't think you'd say he's a better running back.
He was absolutely a better running back.
I don't think so. But anyway.
But anyway, so back to my point about Travis Hunter. So with Travis Hunter, he's a two-way player. As far as I know, the only two-way player in the country. So he has more of a chance. He has more of a chance to impact the game than any other individual in the country that's not a quarterback. Because say what you will about someone who plays both sides, the quarterback is the single most important player on a football team. I think we can both agree with that in terms of impacting the outcome. So if you look at Travis Hunter, he had a bigger opportunity than anyone else to elevate his team and take them to the college football playoff, but he failed.
Yeah, but he wasn't even the number 1 guy on his team when people were looking at. If you look at Heisman odds from the beginning of the season, Shedeur Sanders was clearly above him on the rankings before the season started.
Yeah, for sure.
So he kind of came out of almost despite Shedeur Sanders, who I thought had a very underwhelming season, even though the Buffaloes probably did better than a lot of people thought they would. And I think all of that is because of Travis Hunter. So, I mean, anyway,
I don't think. I mean, if you look at their game the other day, people were praising his performance the other day. They beat Kansas by like 30 points. Yeah. He was still in the game catching touchdown passes when they were up like 45-0.
That's who Deion is. I mean, that's.
Yeah, but then you look at Genty, and Genty is taken out of games in the second half early in the season. And I know we can talk about all the stat padding stuff, but Ashton Genty lifted his team with fewer opportunities.
I hear you.
And he's on pace. Well, not on pace. He's within distance of Barry Sanders' single season record, which I don't think any of us expected anyone to get to.
Yeah. Look, regardless of whether either one of us think or people in the audience think that it should be Travis Hunter or it should be Genty, whatever, I don't care. I mean, whatever you think, great. I mean, even if the Hunter people are in the minority, it's fine. My point is, I think it's a stretch to say it's a giant snub. It's a giant snub.
Okay, here's my question to you.
Think he should be?
No, it's because of all the reasons that I just listed. I think he has been the best player in the country this year. Travis Hunter has played both ways, and because there's no quarterback in the race, people think, oh, he deserves the Heisman, which is a whole nother thing in and of itself. People say that Travis Hunter deserves the Heisman because he plays both ways. Why didn't he deserve it last year then? This isn't a new thing. Why didn't he deserve it 2 years ago?
I don't know.
He's been playing both sides for 3 seasons now. So why all of a sudden do we just say that he deserves it this year? Is it because there's no one else? Because there is absolutely someone else.
We can have this conversation again next week because I have a feeling when you have 4 shows a week talking about mostly Saints, it does get old after a while, and it's hard. Maybe we'll have a whole show on this, and I don't know, maybe not a whole show, but
Nick, the team's terrible this year. They just played bad opponents.
I don't know.
They're in a cupcake conference. They played one top 25 opponent, and they got beat.
I don't agree with this, Genty, and
no, he will not.
I think he's going to be fantastic in the NFL.
I heard one of my coworkers compared him to Maurice Jones-Drew, and I think that's an excellent comparison.
I could see that. UBN says if we have a show on this, he needs to be okay. Maybe we will have at least half of a show.
I will sit here and I will die on the hill alone that Ashton Genty deserves the Heisman Trophy.
All right, well,
especially so. Let me ask you this, Jim: if he breaks Barry Sanders' single season record, does that change your opinion at all?
Let me answer that next week. I don't want to answer that today without going into it further.
Yeah, no, sure.
Possibly. I mean, I know that the ballots are due in by, I think, Sunday. So I will have made up my official decision by Sunday. All right, as we go off here, if you can, switching topics, if you can,
Charles, stop it.
Oh Lord. Yeah.
Maurice Jones-Drew was a lot of things. Garbage is not one of them.
Oh,
he was
did he really say that?
fantastic.
I
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah, he said Maurice is
Maurice
garbage.
Jones-Drew was not garbage. He was a fantastic running back.
Yes.
I mean,
I am a Texans fan. I hate everything Jacksonville Jaguars, and I loved Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I mean, you can't hate him. He's awesome.
All right. Well, look, I want you, as we go back here, can you scroll back through some of the older Saints comments? Because we're going to get into it, especially when we get to Larry in a minute. And we will pick up this conversation next week.
Sounds good.
All right. Gabe Henderson, everybody. It's fun. I mean, that's what we have debates on the show because we do things that not a lot of other people do. Now, Larry and I debate in other ways. I mean, we like to have fun with our debates. Like I could debate the fact that you're not supposed to have pink and whatever color Christmas lights you got going on there. What is that back there? You got blue in there? You know, blue Christmas. What is going on?
We like color.
I mean,
not like what you're probably one of those guys who got to have white Christmas lights. How boring
actually,
is that?
You know what's funny is
That's boring.
I am a fan of like red and green. Okay. However, my wife, if it were up to her, all the Christmas lights outside, all the Christmas lights inside, everything would just be white. And I actually don't like that. That is boring, but I'm not a fan of like every color in the spectrum being in my tree either.
I'll put it to you this way. Okay. So I play tennis. I wear the wildest colors, the wildest socks, like everything crazy. Like if I'm wearing plain black socks, like I don't ever wear white socks to play tennis anyway. If I'm wearing plain black socks, my doubles partner doesn't think I'm taking it serious.
You think
like
you're
got to be
scare the opponent?
What's that?
You're going to scare the opponent that way?
Let's
just makes you feel
what
better.
What are you talking about, man? You got to have fun. Like
I'm all about fun. I mean,
I wear all the colors possible. Obnoxious.
I will say this. Larry Holder is the man. By the way, if you didn't know this, Larry Holder is the man who made an on-air bet one day and then actually shaved his head because he said the Saints wouldn't win 10 games. They did win 10 games. And what did he do? Shaved his head and made a big to-do out of it. That was a lot of fun. Anyway,
speaking
every
of
now and then we show the highlights.
Drew, actually, it wasn't him, but it was on NFL Network. LaDainian Tomlinson. I was on the telestrator like on Saturday night or something when the Saints beat the Panthers in the playoffs that year. It was the 2017 season.
Okay,
and they like telestrated me getting my head shaved off the.
Did they really?
From NOLA.com. Yeah, people told me about it. I never saw it, but people said, "Oh yeah, we saw this on NFL Network."
Ashley, I don't know whether she likes this stream or whether she liked the stream of you getting your head shaved.
My mother-in-law even showed up and took a swipe at my head that night and shaved part of my head.
Oh, Lord. Well, I did it once, and I did it for St. Baldrick's way back when my wife and I first got together. And she's like, you probably shouldn't do that again. I know it's for charity, but
people were disappointed that I actually didn't look bad with it.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Well, and then they were probably more disappointed that it grew back. They think that
just as luscious as ever.
As luscious. There's a word we don't use on this. By the way, before we get into the Saints, what did you think of well, you didn't hear my Dan Campbell rant this morning, but what did you think of Dan Campbell's choice last night there at the end?
Honestly, look,
you like fun, so
I like fun. Like none of it. Like so what? Okay, if they lose, okay. But
all right, let me ask you this: I know you're not really a fan of. You're really not a fan of any team. I mean, you probably have your druthers, and there are teams that you would like to see it, whatever. But the grand scheme of things, let me ask you this: if you were a diehard Lions fan, okay, what would you have thought of that last night?
If I'm a diehard Lions fan, I trust anything that Dan Campbell does because
you got to be kidding me.
It's because it's more the grand scheme of things. This is the best run this franchise has ever seen. Go with it. Just
because it's the best run, you think he's the reason?
He's part of it. He's
actually a much smaller part of it. The larger part is whoever constructed the personnel on this football team. Now, because first of all, his running backfield, there's a chance that one day when we're talking about the history of this sport, that this running backfield could be top 10 all time?
I don't know if we're going to go that far. Because how much longer is David Montgomery going to be around?
I don't know, the way that he runs. Yeah, I don't know.
That's got to be a long term. It's hard to deem it. No, I'm not going there. No, I think we're too in the moment.
All right, Gabe, before we get into today's Saints Giants, you got any comments in the queue that you want to show from before that we never got to? By the way, first of all, real quick, take that one off for a hold and catch and hold on to that one. By the way, there ain't never going to be, and I don't care that I'm not using proper English, there ain't never, ever going to be respect on Dan Campbell's name on this show. Not from this host. He's a moron. Okay, go back to where we were. Okay. UBN, coach.
Oh, boy.
No. Where's the other one? Apathy. The one you had from Apathy. You got it? We want to go back and read some of these comments. Already seeing the report there from ESPN that Loomis, we read this one, but that's okay. I want to get your take on it. Loomis will be back next season. No fan should be excited with status quo. I'm sure you would at least semi agree with that statement.
I never thought it even needed to be reported, but I guess the rest of humanity needs to know that. It wouldn't surprise me. I've said it. It's the same thing I say. Mickey Loomis will be gone when Mickey Loomis wants to be gone.
Exactly right.
There is, unless he is caught criminally doing something.
What was it that Edwin Edwards used to say?
What's that?
Edwin Edwards used to say he was going to be governor until it was something that had to do with, I don't remember the exact line. I may have to find the line because I don't want to mess it up. I'll get in trouble. Apathy says, even Lumisnomics, we all praise from 2010 to 2020 doesn't work anymore. Kind of like I said, things go in cycles. It doesn't work, but I mean, I agree with you. Lumisnomics equals lack of depth. Here's my thing, though. Even though I 100% agree with you, and I've been saying the same thing about Loomis will step down when Loomis is ready to step down. Here's an interesting point that talked about in the Final Bet show last night on Fox 8. I know you're a regular on Fox 8 as well.
I was on this morning from Celebration in the Oaks on the train.
They let you on the train?
Yes, and it was funny. Because I said, look, you
got connections.
We have the Saints as a less than 1% chance to make the playoffs.
Right.
I said, is this an analogy where I jump off the moving train and I'm like, it's over, like the season's over? And then poor Kelsey Davis, she's like, no, let's be positive. I was like, all right, I'll keep my toe. My toe will be on the train. The rest of my body is off of it.
Yeah, I said I used the old 0.0 on the show last night. But here's the thing. And Chris Lundy says, release Carr, eat the cap, bring Pete back to run the offense, and let Spencer run the up. I know you're joking. No rational, sane person would A, want Pete back, and B, want Spencer Rattler to be the quarterback. So I know you're just trolling. So you're probably better off trolling someone else because you're going to get trolled back. It's probably what's going to happen on this show. But I think there's a possibility. We never even mentioned this. And I know because I don't even know if we really believe that it's a possibility. I think it's a possibility. What happens if Miss Gale steps in and says, you know what? I've been paying attention a lot more than you think I've been paying attention. And I think we need to all go in a different direction. Look, I was impressed with the fact that she stood up to Dennis Allen and she stood up to Mickey Loomis and said, we're firing Dennis Allen. He did not want to fire Dennis Allen. This was on her. Ryan Shano says he's in the minority. You are definitely in the minority. You think the Saints should keep Loomis. But do you think there's a chance Miss Gale steps in and says, you know what, I'm going to make a decision here?
Well, here's the thing. It's like,
and it's hard to know, but
it's like, okay, if Mickey is not the GM, he's not leaving the circle of trust, the franchise, the Benson Business Corporation. He's in the succession plan of the team. They're not going to tear up the succession plan of the team. That is not going to get torn up unless there's something wild where there's grandchildren who you want to get rid of completely and get rid of them entirely out of your lives.
Now, who would you be talking about?
I don't know. Maybe that's how Gail owns the team.
Poor Rita.
But that is not happening. So, like, it doesn't matter if he's not the GM. He's going to be in the building, in his office, like this until he wants to step away. Like, I don't even waste my breath talking about this stuff. I know people, Saints fans, they scream and yell about this, all this stuff.
Yeah.
The coaches can come and go. The players can come and go. The circle of trust is the circle of trust. That's it.
Yep. By the way, thank you, David Hubble. This is the quote, by the way. I'm going to may or may not regret. The quote is, this is not me saying this. This is the quote from former Governor Edwin Edwards. May God have pity on his soul. I mean, I got to say it now. I mean,
yes.
this is a quote from the former governor of the state of Louisiana.
This is factual. So that he said this. So
the only way I can lose this election is if I'm caught in bed with either a dead girl or a live boy.
That's definitely said. Yes.
I'm just saying.
That goes back to even how Tom Benson owned the team. Edwin Edwards said, "Oh, Tom, you're going to be part of a group." And then when Tom shows up to the meeting with the governor and the group, he walks in. He's the only one in there, and and Edwin says, "Oh, I'm sorry, Tom, you are the group." And so he kind of got bamboozled to even buying the team, and convinced by the governor.
Charles says, "Hey, look, Louisiana. If you're not from Louisiana and you for some reason you watch a show on a regular basis because you just like this weirdo who runs this, who's the host of the show, God love you. Yeah, we do things differently here, and we certainly say things differently." Charles says, "If you're saying if Gail passes, Loomis takes over like VP takes over if the president dies."
No, he's the next step. It would be Dennis Lauscha.
Lauscha, yep.
But Loomis is in the chain.
He's like the Speaker of the House.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mickey Loomis is the Speaker. I think we're in.
This has been reported. This is not private.
No, right. Yeah,
this has all been reported.
But it's no different from when you covered the team for a decade or whatever. I mean, this is the way since Tom Benson has structured this team. I'm just not so sure that Mescale doesn't step in. Because the way that Garland Gillen put it to me, so I can't remember the one. I think it was Garland said this. Would Gail have the quote unquote backbone? I think she's got a stronger backbone than people think. I think that if this team was going to go in a direction she didn't think it should go in, I think she might step in. Just saying. There's a chance.
But also, they are not going to forget the business success and the rise of this franchise under Mickey Loomis's watch.
Yeah, but
and
that was a long time ago.
Doesn't matter. We always talk about their like that doesn't matter. That doesn't change. The money, the team's not making money. All these things are not happening. That I'm sorry.
I agree with you that was the way that it's been. But when you own a team and you realize and you go there every Sunday and you see what's happening to this crowd on a week by week basis, and not only that, when you see where this crowd is for next week's Commanders game, and there are going to be more Jaden Daniels fans in that dome than Saints fans. And then 2 weeks later, when they play the Las Vegas Raiders, and no one in the building gives a damn, and they're only there because they already had their tickets, and they bring their kids because they usually bring their kids to preseason games, but now you can bring them to the Raiders game because it's basically the same thing as a preseason game. And that's and the dome's going to be, I'm not kidding, actual attendance for that Raiders game might be in the neighborhood of 45 to 50,000. Okay. Which is going to be super sad. So when you're talking about what you might see in the near future, that can change an owner's mind in a hurry. And you go to the GM, and again, Loomis may end up staying, but he may be told, these are things that we got to do. And you're going to follow these rules or just become in an advisory role.
Oh, I don't discount that edicts can be brought down. I just don't think that a change of personnel on that side of the Benson empire of business is going to happen. Well, here's the thing. Okay, you have one franchise that's fledgling, another franchise that's fledgling. I mean, do you have to blow all of it up? or do you think that even the owner's even capable of running or even overseeing any of these franchises? I think that's the bit, to me, that's even a bigger question. I mean, do you have, look, the owner, they don't have to sell. Like, they're not going to fire themselves. So, like, you could throw all of your venom at one way, but there are 2 franchises now in town that who wants to go to any of those games? Not anybody who wants to pay any kind of premium.
Yeah, I'm only going because I have to go. I guarantee if I had tickets that I bought for this game, I'd either give them away or probably not go. I got to be honest. So I'm going because I got to go. But I'm just saying that I don't think that this city they're not ready to go. It's not like before when we were kids and they stunk and they always stunk, but we had a football team and people were basically still grateful because in the grand scheme of things, people back then could remember what it was like not to have a pro football team. Well, people today can't remember what it was like to not have a pro football team. That was almost 60 years ago. I mean, I'm an old dude. I don't remember what it was like to have a pro football team because they got here the year before I was born. So it's different. People are not going to accept this crap anymore. And so I think the ownership, again, it kind of goes to what we're talking about. I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm just telling you, if it comes down to edicts, I don't know that Mickey Loomis is willing to take an edict. Okay. He did not like being told, I promise you, that you're firing Dennis Allen, whether you like it or not. It may not have been said that way, but that's what it was meant. And they fired Dennis Allen, and this team's better off for it. But I guarantee you, he didn't like the edict that came down, and he won't like an ultimatum either.
Well, I'm sure that that's the case. Like, you don't want to be told that your way in a job that you've done for a long time is not the right way, even though,
especially when you're 68 years old,
even though the results in the field show clearly, that here's it. Okay. Whether Dennis was fired in the season or he was going to be gone anyway. Like, I think it was just,
yeah, I agree.
Imagine if they would just win one, lose one, win one, lose one, and they were floating around 500, but still not in the playoffs. Like, and they don't make the playoffs. Like, Dennis was going to be gone anyway. So it just sped the process up. And Mickey would have been on board firing him after the season. I just don't think he probably wanted to fire him in season. That's a difference to me.
I would like to know the internal discussions of what was said at the end of last year, because I guarantee you, they could say they're unified or they just don't say anything because that's how the Saints roll. But I guarantee you there was some dissent in that building about whether Dennis Allen should stay or not.
Probably.
And if one of the dissenters was Gail Benson and she says, okay, I'm going to defer to your judgment. And now she's like, okay, well, we should have done this before. The fact that we're waiting here. I really think, and we may not see this, we may not know this because I don't think anyone's going to tell us. I just think that she's going to be willing to put her foot down at some point and say, you know what? We need to go in a different direction. And Mickey, you can either take us down this road where we're not hiring the Rizzies of the world and go forward, or you can step aside and we'll do it ourselves.
Well, circumstances also change. Like, just because you thought one way at the end of last season doesn't mean your opinion can't change as the season goes. Because guess what? Were people talking about fire Dennis Allen after they start 2-0 and they look like gangbusters? No.
Well, no.
So circumstances change. Like, say if Derek Carr if you don't have all these injuries and stuff.
Yeah, but Larry, an average
circumstances can change. Like, your opinions can change, and they go on a 5-game. They go on a losing streak. They lose embarrassingly to Carolina. This thing's going downhill. Then it's like, all right, now is the time to do it. And measured, we've been too measured. Now you can change your mind. Like,
but I think the average fan though was, I think, going into it the way that what I was talking. I'm not saying that my way is the best way. I'm just saying here was my way of thinking. I blasted Dennis Allen after that just BS apology at the end of last season.
That was bad.
That's about as bad as it gets. But the fact, it wasn't just the apology. As you went along, you realized that he completely lost the locker room. So for a month or whatever, I was completely bashing Dennis Allen, saying it's ridiculous. This guy's still the coach. However, when you get to a certain point and it's April and you're moving on and it's a draft, you say, okay, you know what? I don't have a choice. If you're going to be a Saints fan, you have to give the guy a chance. So was I sitting there saying he should be fired? No, I stopped saying that in April and May because you got to move on. But that doesn't mean that I felt any better about Dennis Allen being head coach. And it doesn't mean that I think it's proven correctly. It's not hindsight, it's 2020. In this case, I think it's proven correctly that the right move would have been to fire him before. And I just don't know that this current administration of people running this team, not the owner, I'm not giving Miss Gail grief because I don't know that she's been in this position long enough to do whatever she needs to do. But I'm just saying this move should have been made before. And it shows that this loyalty to a fault crap, that's all nice in theory, but that's not what wins championships.
I'm going to say if none of those guys get hurt, you win more games, dude. Yeah. Like you do. Like you're never going to win a game.
At best, they're 9-8.
Against a Rattler at quarterback. You're never going to win a game with Jake Haener at quarterback. So here's the thing. When Derek Carr comes back, and he did, and I
don't care about that.
I'm willing to bet that going into that game, Gail Benson says, man, if we lose to Carolina and we've got our quarterback back and we lose to them, it is over. Like, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden we lost and let's do it. Derek Carr comes back and we're in this losing streak and we lose to Carolina, we are going to pull the plug. Like I'm willing to bet that was a thought process going into that game.
Look at these numbers and we can get into the team now, actually. Okay. Look, if you're listening to the podcast, I'll read some of them out to you. But if you're watching live, you can see them. Okay, forget about Derek Carr. It has nothing to do with Derek Carr. Is fine. They could win, and we talked about it before the season. You and I both said the ceiling for this team, the absolute ceiling, if everything went right, was, I think we both agree that it was 10 wins.
Yes,
and that was the absolute ceiling. The realistic ceiling was probably more like 9 wins. So in other words, if they don't have the injuries, we're going through the same crap that we went through last year right now. Instead of being 4-8, they'd probably be like 6-6, and which I know would be good enough for tied for the lead in the NFC South, but they'd find a way to blow it. They weren't going to win. But here's the problem that I have, okay, with what you said and where this team is. Not all of the injuries. Obviously, you got a Paulson and Debo. You traded Lattimore. You have your issues on defense, but the injuries came on offense. Yet the Saints still found a way. Here we are in week 14, and the Saints are 12th in the NFL in offense because mostly of Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill. Okay. The defense, which hasn't had nearly the same amount of injuries, is 30th in the NFL, and it's horrendous. And it goes to show that this team has not done what it's needed to do from the administration portion, and i.e. the general manager and others in his department, to help show. You just keep kicking a can because you think your defense is that good, and they go from 5th to 12th to 18th to now 30th. It just proves that it's not just the coaching aspect. You can't pick coaches, but you can't pick players correctly either. Changes have to be made. I know I'm preaching to the choir because I think you probably think that changes should be made, but who can't see this? If whoever is the grand poobah of making decisions with this team, whether they tell it to us publicly or not, can't see this. How can you not see this?
Do I think that you probably need some better evaluators of talent? Sure. Do we? But here, this is Mickey Loomis's reputation as a GM forever. Look, he gets smart guys under him. It's not like he's the end-all, be-all football evaluator. Like he knows what are good players and what aren't, but he trusts the people around him. Those things need to probably change? Absolutely. I could tell you defensively, we're talking specifically defensively, I'll point to one decision that really hosed them. It's a really easy one because even on a bad defense in Cincinnati, he's great. And that's Trey Hendrickson. They invested.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Marcus Davenport and let Trey Hendrickson walk.
Yep.
From there, it went south.
I agree wholeheartedly.
South, and that was it. And you have not found a complement or even someone to be the number one next to even a Cam Jordan who was number 2. Like you never had that. And that was it. If you have a pass rush, it all works. The Saints pass rush got worse. And look, the Saints defense was playing pretty well early in the season. And like I said, it was
Pretty
on
well.
the podcast.
Okay.
Human nature. You start falling off. You start drifting off. And then like, you can't. That side of the ball you knew was going to get worse, and now you trading players, this, that, and the other. Like it was a bound to happen. Like, and your offense never got better while your defense was still the strength, but getting less of a strength. Like it needed to catch up to each other, and it never did.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I mean, but it just, the thing is, you got to be able to recognize these things, and it's not just one player. I mean, I agree with you about Henderson. They should have done, all this kicking the can stuff. You have to identify. You have to identify the players are worth kicking the can for.
Let's do a domino effect. If you keep Hendrickson, you don't draft Peyton Turner, you don't draft Isaiah Foskey, you don't do all these other things, and then you could use your assets somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is definitely a domino effect because of that.
Why they picked Isaiah Foskey, and look, even if Isaiah Foskey turned out to be a decent player, I'll go back to that draft because I'm still pissed off that you take Brian Posey, and I didn't agree with the pick because I thought they needed an offensive lineman in the first round of last year's draft, which when they picked Posey. And okay, fine. You think you need defensive line help? You did need defensive line help. But to go and pick Foskey with that second pick just shows you the ineptitude of this administration. You just completely ignore your offensive line, and you think you're going to solve it by this year. You pick Fuaga, great. Well, you lost Ramczyk too. That doesn't. You're overall like -2 right now.
Well, you don't know you're losing Ramczyk forever. Like 3 years ago.
But you can't realistic. Ramczyk had already started to have some issues injury-wise. So you don't need a crystal ball to realize he ain't going to be here much longer. So besides Ramczyk anyway, it's not like you didn't need the help then. I mean, so there's just some things that I just can't accept. And Trevor Penning had already proven to me that he was a bust. Apathy says Dennis Allen was the laziest hire. If Loomis is leading the search, expect another lazy hire. I don't know that necessarily that's the case. I just think there needs to be someone else involved. There need to be, and I know there are always multiple people involved in picking a head coach. You got to get away from anything that has to do with this team or Sean Payton or the past of this team. You just do. You need a whole fresh new start. You don't agree?
Zach Strief, head coach. Let's go. He could do play-by-play on the side.
I was going to say, why not? You picked a guy who never did play-by-play before to do play-by-play for 3 or 4 years. And I love Zach Strief. I think he's a phenomenal human being. He just had no business being. I'm just saying.
All I know is this entire conversation we've been going on, it's probably been 30 minutes now, and we see it different. I think your listeners we see it a little bit differently. I agree with some of the things you're saying. I disagree with some of the things you're saying. But moral of the story is they're not good enough. They're 4-8. This is like what the fourth season in a row where you're saying,
it's the same show we had 3 years ago.
It's December, beginning of December, and the season's over. Like that's terrible.
It's the same show we had 3 years ago. It's disgusting. Yeah. Lance says DA picked Davenport over Henderson and Gay over Bond to fit his scheme. I mean, Zach Bond's doing okay, isn't he? I mean, he looks.
That is another bad move. Even when they made that pick, that was like that pick was a bad fit. I don't know who thought of that.
I don't either.
That was a bad pick. And guess what? Now Philadelphia's figured it out.
All right. Well, my title. We never even really got to the title of the show today. I did not expect.
There's a title.
I did not expect this to go off into this tangent, but my front page today was, and I did this only semi-facetiously, the next Taysom Hill. And if you don't know who that is Kendre Miller.
I was going to say, I actually do not know who that is. It's not Reggie Bush.
And look, I think, and I'm not kidding when I say this, I really think that Kendre Miller, as much as I hated the pick of, they thought he was better than some other running backs that were available at that point. I'm not going to get into that whole thing again. But I will say this. I think now he's going to get a legitimate chance because he got in Dennis Allen's doghouse. He's back from quote unquote whatever injury he is. Taysom Hill's gone. They need to find another Taysom Hill. No one can beat Taysom Hill, but can he play? Do you think Kendre Miller can play a similar role? And are they going to willing to experiment? There's nothing else to do. You're 4-8. You're not going anywhere. You might as well experiment with some things. And I think Kendre Miller is a perfect player to experiment with this week and for the rest of the season, if he's healthy.
he's more brittle than Taysom Hill. He could run 5 snaps and get hurt. Like, he has no history. Like, his only history is injury.
Or Kendre Miller.
His only history is injury. So, and here's look, okay, experiment. That's great. All these people are still playing for a job.
Yeah.
And, that's the thing. Like, imagine if you were Darren Rizzi. Oh, let me just go crazy. Like, and then you do all these insane decisions. None of them work. You still got to get hired somewhere else.
What if they do work? And the thing is, look, I don't want this to be true, but Taysom Hill going into age 35 next August. I mean, and it's an ACL. He's not going to be ready for the start of the season. Let's be realistic. I mean, he could be done.
Right. He could be over for sure. And that's look. And for everything he's done, he's been so fun and fascinating to watch. But I mean, look, I can't even compare Kendre Miller to Taysom Hill. Like, Kendre Miller's not going to line up as a tight end. He's not going to line up as a receiver. He's not going to throw a pass. He's not going to do anything. He's not going to
line up as a receiver.
I mean, yeah, well, he could, but why would you ever throw the ball to him?
No one is going to be able to fill that role exactly. I'm just saying, to have someone that can do multiple things, maybe, he could be that guy.
I have zero confidence in that guy. None.
Well, A-Town says not no, but hell no.
No, zero confidence in that guy. Like, I don't even think, to me, the guy barely even exists on the team. Like, I wouldn't even know if he was there or not.
Lance,
he's not going to be some superstar or even like a viable piece.
If you could make this work going forward, I'm all for it. Cheap pick. I don't know that it'd be a cheap pick for Justin Fields. He's absolutely a Taysom type. I love Justin Fields, not as a starting quarterback, but as Mr. Do-it-all, Swiss Army knife kind of guy. I don't think he's being used properly. I think he could be used. He could be a guy like that if the right person came in here.
I don't want to see that player ever again. I want a team that actually doesn't have to use some gadgety player to be 500. Give me a break. Does Patrick Mahomes have that? No. Does Joe Burrow have that? No. Does
because Patrick Mahomes is that guy though.
No, he's not. He's not like running the ball like power with Patrick Mahomes. Give me
but he runs when he wants to.
He doesn't have to. Like, you don't, but that's the thing. Taysom Hill's not your starting quarterback. Like, they don't have some.
That's a fair point. Like that is a fair point.
Good teams have that. Like, even the Lions, you hate Jared Goff. Do they have that? No. Like, no good teams have that. None.
I don't know. I mean,
none.
What about Ricard with the Ravens?
Who, the fullback who plays 4 snaps a game? Dude, now you're getting me fired up. No viable team needs a Taysom Hill ever.
You don't need it.
Taysom Hill was great. He would be great at one thing.
What are you talking about? He's like Sean Payton's master creation.
So what? It still didn't give
you love Sean Payton.
And he was like a mini skill type player. Like, no.
You're saying you can't win a championship with Taysom Hill?
Unless you have a viable quarterback. Guess what? This team doesn't have one.
Oh, you're just going to try to turn the tables on me.
Derek Carr is not a viable Super Bowl
you just talked about well, we don't know because we've never seen him with a real offensive line.
My gosh.
What about Debo?
He could be a good piece. He's still not going to line. You don't want to line him up as quarterback. Like,
well, I mean,
Debo
the best player on your offense is a gadget player.
If the best player on your offense is a gadget player, your offense sucks.
Well, Debo's a gadget player. Probably not the.
He's the fifth best player.
He's like the second best
position.
He's like the second best.
Get out of here. No, if the gadget guy is the best player on your offense, you suck.
I did not expect this show to devolve into a Taysom.
We don't even need to go on my picks. I picked every favorite except one. So there you go on my staff picks. I know we're way over. I'll just ignore that part.
All
this
right.
conversation is more fun than talking about Saints Giants. This whole thing is. It's way more fun. You know it.
Why? You got something else to say about Taysom before I move on?
I think I've said plenty.
All right. All right. We're gonna Larry's segment will end with our Saints predictions, even though he basically just told you who he's gonna pick. But I did want to look at the NFL's best game of Week 14 real quick. What you were great at when I asked you Dennis Allen's chances, about 8 weeks ago? One of Dennis Allen's chances to be the coach of this franchise in September of 2025. So I'm going to ask you right now before we move on, what are the chances Darren Rizzi is the head coach of the New Orleans Saints on September 1st, 2025?
Ooh, I'm not going 0.0.
No, you can't, can you?
No, I cannot go 0.0. But I will say, because let's see, they're basically probably be favored to win 2 of the final 5 games. They'll probably lose all the ones. They'll at best they'll go 3-2. I don't expect them to go 3-2 at the end. That's not good enough. I'll go 0.5%.
Wow, that's low. That's almost 0.0.
0.5%. Just like the Saints' playoff chances on our playoff predictor right now is less than 1%. That's what I'm going, less than 1%.
I don't mean this to be mean, but I have little faith. After all that I said earlier, I have little faith that this team is going to do the right thing administratively. Okay? And if the same exact administration is in place, I mean, from top to bottom, without any changes and without any input, I think that there is a better chance than anyone thinks that they will bring back Darren Rizzi because they are loyal to a fault. And so with that, I'm going to say it's more like, I'm going to go 16.5%.
Woo.
And I hope the 83.5% wins, because if no offense, Darren Rizzi might end up being a good coach somewhere. I've said this before, but if Darren Rizzi ends up being the coach of this team, I'm just gonna take this recording of this. I'll just find a way to change the graphics, and I'll just run this show next December the 6th, because it'll be the same show. They'll be 4-8 again, and we'll have to do this all over again. All right, you can go ahead and start getting in your Saints predictions if you want to, because we're gonna run them we're going to go through these games real quickly. Lastly, before we move on, David Ducott, to say the truth, it may be the end of the Taysom Hill era. We all need to pray and give our love to him. Okay, he's one of a kind player for sure, even though Larry thinks he's useless. He has brought hope and passion to a team that has had very little to be happy for. We love Taysom Hill. He's a Saints all.
Never said useless, but if he's your best option, your offense.
It's not your best option. Alvin Kamara's your best option.
Not the way it's perceived around this neck of the woods in New Orleans.
Let's really try to do 30 to 45 seconds each on these games before we come back and make our Saints predictions. Again, if you want to make a Saints prediction, you want us to show it in the air, now's your time to type it in. We're going to get to them in less than 2 minutes. All right, best of the week 14. I put this first game up because I find it interesting. It is one of my best bets of the week. I'm probably wrong because I keep going back to the Falcons and they keep proving me wrong. But this spread is ridiculous. I think Kirk Cousins is out to get revenge. I actually think the Falcons win this game straight up against the Minnesota Vikings. They're 5.5-point underdogs. I'm certainly taking the 5.5 points. I think the Falcons finally come out of that losing streak and they realize they got to do it now. It's now or never.
It's not the Falcons haven't been offensively any good at all the last few weeks. Minnesota's defense has been very good. I don't see why that changes. And it's not like the Atlanta Falcons defense puts any pressure on opposing teams. So I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to take the Vikings. And I don't know, like I said, I don't pick points, but I think this is I think it's amazing that the Falcons are in such a free fall. Like the fact that Michael Penix is actually becoming a viable conversation as we're getting close to the end of the season. I mean, it's viable. It's not just people talk like, is Michael Penix maybe a better option now?
Not going to happen.
I mean, it's not going to happen, but considering how bad Kirk Cousins has been lately.
If he has another 4 interception game, they won't have a choice. But I just think that he's going to go back to Minnesota and have maybe he better, or he's in deep trouble, and so is his franchise. So I think it's more of a they have to do it kind of thing. Again, this is one of my best bets of the week. I love Atlanta. Larry likes Minnesota. He doesn't do point spreads. He just picks winners. Every now and then he might give me a point spread. But speaking of point spreads, this one they love to dangle that extra hook on there. Sunday at 3:25, the game of the week on Fox. Can't wait to hear Tom Brady. Just kidding. I think he's a horrendous color analyst. He's the opposite of how good he was as a quarterback.
Good.
He's really bad.
Bring back Greg Olsen.
Greg Olsen is way, way better. That's a whole different story. All right. Anyway, Buffalo Bills -3.5 at the Los Angeles Rams. What say you?
Well, I already alluded to what I'm doing. But I'm going with the Bills. And, yeah, that hook, it might only be 3. Like, that's the thing. That's the danger zone there.
Yeah.
But Buffalo's defense, it's not like they're going to some ruckus, home field advantage away from the Rams. I'm sure Buffalo fans are probably going to be there in droves, get out of Dodge and go to LA in December. I'm sure it's going to be a good atmosphere for Buffalo fans. And the crazy thing is that, like, Josh Allen's not playing awesome, and yet they keep winning. Like, that to me, I think that's dangerous for the rest of the NFL, because he can play better. And if he does, like, down the line, to me, I almost feel like that's my AFC favorite right now. But yeah, I think Buffalo.
Too easy.
Yeah.
Too easy. I think the Rams are going to win this game. I really do. I think the Rams are going to win. I think the Bills are way overinflated. I think they're they always have stinkers. They can't play they can't play for a month straight without throwing up a stinker. They're about due for a stinker. And I think this is a good spot for them. I think the Rams are better than.
Have we agreed on this show today?
Today? I don't think so. Maybe we'll
on anything.
Maybe we'll agree on the last one. By the way, I don't even understand what UBN means. Jim Derry's favorite analyst. I don't even know what you mean by that. My favorite analyst is probably Jim Rapier. But anyway. All right. Sunday, 7:20 p.m. on NBC. The Fighting Harbaughs, the Los Angeles Chargers, are visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. This one's also in my best bets. I'll ask you what you think first. The Chargers are 4-point underdogs.
This game I probably wrestled with the most, because I think the Chargers can beat them. But I'm not going to think they're going to beat them in Kansas City. If this game was in LA, I would pick the Chargers right now. But it's not.
As opposed to like 5 minutes ago.
Or a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Hey, whatever. I mean, you think Justin Herbert's nonsense, Derek Carr over Justin Herbert every day.
Justin Herbert is a little better than average. I'd put him like 12th, 13th, somewhere around there.
I'm not saying he's like
proven no differently.
But put him on a different team, he'd be awesome. But anyway.
Well, people always say that. You could put him on a different team. He'd be awesome. How do we know? He's not on a different team.
Well, we'll never know. It's a hypothetical.
Yeah,
I get it. But, I just – anyway.
You put Patrick Mahomes on the Giants, maybe they stink.
They'd be better.
Maybe he stinks.
They'd be better.
Just saying.
You put Herbert on the Giants, they'd be better.
Yeah, if you missed the show yesterday, judging by the ratings, you probably did. I love the Kansas City Chiefs here. I think they're got something to prove. They can clinch the division. They have not done well against the spread as of late. However, I think this is a spot where Mahomes says, you know what? I'm tired of these pesky Chargers. Let's just put them away. I think that the Chiefs play one of their best games here. I like the Chiefs -4. There you go. All right. Time. Drum roll, please. As we go back to the Saints, this spread, I find there was definitely I know you and I don't talk about spreads all that much, but there's an interesting facet of this line that has changed in the last 24 hours. Now, the spread started out as Saints -5, and it went to -4.5, which is no big deal because 5 is not a key number. 4.5 is not a key number. That's really not that big of a deal. But what is a big deal is the money line has changed dramatically in the last 24 hours. Interesting, the line has not. So the Saints went from -245, which means you would have to lay $245 to win 100 if you just wanted to bet without a spread, to -205. That is a major change. Means money pouring in on the Giants money line, which again has not changed the spread, but it's changed the money line. So people with money are betting on the Giants to win this game. What do you think?
Have they ever seen Drew Lock play and all this? And do they realize that Dexter Lawrence is done for the year? Like, no Dexter Lawrence, that's enough for me to say, no, the Saints are going to win this game. And, okay, I don't know this. I'm asking you. Oh, we're expecting Eric McCoy to play. Is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a good chance Eric McCoy plays.
No Dexter Lawrence, add Eric McCoy back. To me, that's enough. That's all I need to know.
Charles says 28-24 Saints. Uncle Big Nick says 27-23 Giants. It's a lock. See what he did there. Emily says Saints 24, Giants 14. We missed Apathy. Hold on real quick. After Lance. Saints 28-14. Giants are tanking. Go get Max Crosby. Who, the Giants or the Saints? Apathy says Saints prediction for Saints Giants. 99% chance he cuts the grass on Sunday. A-Town says there's a 0.65437% chance that Riz will not be the Saints coach. So you're saying there's a 99.3 whatever
that he will be?
I think that's a little bit much. A-Town says Giants 18, Saints 17. The G-Men winning a last-second field goal. And what else? We got any more? Is that it? Before I get my... Oh, Saints get Crosby. UBN says Larry looks like he has the Griswold tree behind him. Just don't shock yourself. David Dukas says Saints 27, Giants 16. Okay, here's my prediction. Look, this is the last chance. I said this on Final Bet last night. I think this is the last chance for the Saints to have a fun roll over the opponent. I know it's cold and they don't always do well in cold weather. I just think the Saints are going to roll in this one. The Giants have so many issues. Brian Daboll, win or lose, no matter what he does the rest of the way, he's a goner. Maybe he'll be a candidate to come here. I actually think he's a pretty decent coach. I don't know. I think the Saints play well here, and I'm going to say Saints 23, Giants 14.
I don't think Daboll is going to be a goner. I think he's going to have an opportunity to actually play with another quarterback, coach another quarterback.
Okay, I hope he does.
Like he didn't tie up Daniel Jones to that bad again, that's a situation. Whatever, another show. But I will go Saints 20, Giants 16.
Okay, so you're saying the Giants will cover. All right, I'm saying the Saints will cover. All right. We didn't do this. Did we not? We didn't do this last week, right? No, but I picked we did. I had the.
You were right.
Yeah, I know.
I picked the Saints. You picked the Rams. You were right.
Yeah. Every now and then it happens. Very interesting conversation today, Larry. I enjoyed it.
It's only going to get worse because the games are going to be, the Saints are going to lose. What's next? Like, it's only going to get more divisive, but means more fun.
Gabe said before the show starts, he's wondering, like, if from a show perspective, if you wanted more viewers, do you want the Saints to win or lose on Sunday? And my point is, we always do better when the Saints lose. However, we're getting to a point, does anybody really care? But but if the Saints were to lose to the Giants, though, I think that would really piss off people. I think awful. We'd have a lot of pissed off people here on Mono Monday.
That's an even worse loss than maybe Carolina at this rate. Like when they lost to Carolina, this loss might be even worse.
Randall says 27-24. Giants aren't scoring 27 points in the Saints.
No.
The Giants can't. The Giants can't score 27 points on Boise State. They just can't.
No.
I don't.
Offenses.
That was Drew Lock. And I know the Saints defense is not good, but they ain't scoring any points. All right, I will see you next Friday when we preview Saints and Commanders, and we get to talk about Jaden Daniels. Who knows? Maybe we get to talk about Mickey Loomis some more, and Gail Benson and Darren Rizzi, and
highly likely because whatever. Who
gives a rat's ass?
Right. The story has changed, and we're just gonna have to keep talking about that until it happens.
All right, don't go falling off any trains.
Well, hopefully I don't freeze tonight because I'm going back tonight. It's gonna be cold.
All right, well, I'll be out on the West Bank. You'll be on the East Bank. I'll be on the West Bank at Shaw and Madison Prep. Talk to you next week.
All right, buddy. See ya.
All right. Larry Holder, everybody. Always entertaining. Always entertaining. What's more entertaining, having Larry on the show or me talking about numbnuts who coaches the Detroit Lions? They're both fun. Or Gabe getting in his, you're an idiot if you don't think Shanti is the Heisman Trophy winner. Get biggest snub. The biggest snub since who was the dude that did this? If he would have lost, that'd have been the biggest snub since that dude. That was in the 30s, wasn't it? I don't know. Whatever. I'm going off the rails in the crazy train here. We're going to finish up with Saints. We got about eight minutes or so left in the show. If you want to get in your final comments, now is the time to do it. Can't wait till we get to Mono Monday. The Saints lose Sunday. I do think it will be a kind of off the rails Mono Monday. I'm not rooting for them to lose. I hate losing. I want them to win. We'll get the idiots back. We'll say, oh, no, I really hope they go 4-13 so we can get a better draft pick, which makes no difference whatsoever. Oh, whatever. We told you earlier we would let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth. And we also told you to stay away from the Dan Campbells of the world and figure out whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Well, how does Evangeline? We know how Dan Campbell does it. He's got some kind of, either somebody put something in his brain or he's got some kind of thing that's misfiring up there. That's how he does it. But Evangeline, how do they figure out whether it's help you figure out whether it's time to sell? Well, after their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians, Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline, they'll begin an extensive auction process from among established private equity funds from around the world. And they will maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area. None, and I mean none, with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed and ready to serve you, so get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. That is the rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, before we wrap up with the Saints, Tulane, Fighting Wave, playing Army tonight. We already told you, Uncle Big Nick and I both love the Wave tonight. Both love the Wave. Go Eagles! Thank you, Charles. Good show again. By the way, can you stay out of arguing with other members of the Dattitude family? Can we all just get along? UBN says, go Eagles. Y'all getting that from me. That's my own fault. I get it. I missed Gabe's comment from before talking about Leonard Fournette. Sorry. Just saying that now. Let's see what else we got here. Go Shaw. Absolutely, Lance. Kyle says he feels better after these shows. It's psychotherapy. That's only because you realize you ain't as crazy as the Dattitude podcast host. Rainy Cajun says a close second is being on his show, which I'm glad you reminded me. If you go back yesterday's show, in the description, I put a link to, I'm on Rainy Cajun's podcast. We had a nice little chat last week. Put a podcast together, the Rainy Cajun podcast. Go check it out. I'm no different in that podcast than I'm here, except I'm kind of talking more about myself, which I don't get a lot to do. I don't get a lot of chance to do. I had fun with it. Thanks for Rainy Cajun for the invite. We talk about how I got started in the business. We talk about what I think about the Saints' future. We talk about some great places to eat in Mandeville, all sorts of things. So go check it out, Rainy Cajun podcast. Again, the link is in Thursday's show. I'll try to put it here in today's link after I'm done with here. Gary says he hopes the Greenies defense shows up tonight. I think they will. They've been pretty good at playing teams like this. And Summerall, I think, will be ready. Kyle's fired up about Evangeline Securities. You should be. Give him a call. Kyle? Uncle Big Nick, when is Mono Monday not off the rails? It just kind of depends. You know, if it's a ho-hum kind of game against Giants, I don't know. A lot of times I come in, I don't know what to expect on Mono E Monday. Walt Crawford says if the Saints lose the Giants, Rizzy is toast. 100%. Now, not for this year. He's not going in. They could lose by 40 points the rest of the way. He's not going anywhere this year, but yes. Lance says we're picking at 9, and no one above us has a huge defensive need. We get the best defensive player in the draft. I'm going to say this as nicely and politely as possible. The Saints don't draft an offensive lineman with the first pick they have in this draft, or trade down and get multiple early picks. Then they just don't get it. It's one thing for fans not to get it. It's another thing for administrators. How long do you need to watch this team to realize that this team needs 1A as offensive lineman, 1B as offensive lineman, 1C might be offensive lineman. Now, granted, they definitely need defensive linemen too. They need help in the trenches on both sides of the football. But there is nothing else this team needs more than an offensive lineman. And if you can't figure that out, I don't mean you, Lance. I mean you, Mickey Loomis, whoever else is going to be in charge of this team, then you don't belong running a football franchise. No hope for our offensive line, you ask? None. Why would I have hope for this offensive line? Trevor Penning played better than we expected him to play, but that doesn't mean he played well. Trevor Penning is not good, and he's not a starter. So there you go. Callie says, love the realness. Thank you. I mean, I might not be good at a ton of things, but I'm good at realness. That's they need wideouts and playmakers. Yeah, but not first. They need that. They need everything. I mean, if you want to talk, they need everything. What do they not need? Name me a single position that they don't need. They even need a kicker. They need a punter. Their kicker's not good. Their punter's not good. I mean, Groupie got a little better this year, but he's not that good. Lance, you disagree on the O-line, still love the show. Well, I mean, we can agree to disagree. I mean, I don't ever want a show where I got however many people watching and everybody agrees with me. That's boring. I would be bored with it after a while. A-Town says, if the Saints don't pick an offensive lineman, I may tear down my set. It's not hard to tear down my set. This, if you don't know this, in case you're a little slow, I know not you, A-Town, but if you're a little slow, I don't really sit in the dome. They don't let me come in the dome every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning. This is a green screen. And they certainly wouldn't let me hang my Dattitude. So to tear down my set, it'd be pretty simple. I'm not going to tear down the hardware portion because I just got a new computer, and I'd cry if something happened to this thing because this is the one I've been wanting for a long time. So anyway, all I would have to do is reach up here and rip down my green. Oh, it's kind of started shaking there. Emily says she wants a legit tight end, blocker, and a catcher. Need a second runner. Those are all things we need. Saints need I dare anyone to tell me what the Saints don't need. Go ahead. I'm waiting. What do the Saints need? You could say Saints need whatever you say. I'm going to say you're right. The Saints need that. The Saints need a new popcorn salesman. Absolutely. The Saints need a new faucet in the men's bathroom in the press room. Absolutely they do. There ain't a single thing this team doesn't need. Hayball getting a leading vote getter for the Pro Bowl in the NFC. That just goes, if that's really true, and I take you at your word, Kyle, if that's really true, it shows you how ridiculously out of touch the Pro Bowl is with the reality and why it's meaningless. I thought they didn't punt in the Pro Bowl anymore. I thought it was like some stupid, shows you how much I don't pay attention to the Pro Bowl. I thought they had like flag football rules and did stupid stuff. I don't know. I don't think that's true. Anyway. All right, we're going to wrap it up for today. It's been an interesting week. Hasn't it? It's as a podcast host, as we start to transition, look, we're going to transition out of doing Saints 95% of the time. And we're going to do it earlier than we normally do. I know a lot of you don't want to hear that, but we talked about something about high school this week. We spent a whole show yesterday basically on college football conference championship games, and not everybody wanted to hear that. But we're going back. This show is going to go back to where it was intended to go. Okay? Just giving you a heads up. This show was not intended to be solely a Saints show, and I don't want it to be that. There are going to be times when we go a couple months or whatever, and all we talk about is the Saints, and it is what it is. But I want to talk some about high schools. I want to talk definitely more about LSU. I want to talk more about Tulane. I want to be able to talk about the Pelicans, although they're so bad, no one would watch right now. I want to be able to talk about LSU basketball and women's basketball. Apparently had a great game, and I didn't have time to watch it last night. I want to talk about the national stories, like I did today with Dan Campbell, and whether you agree with me or not, doesn't matter if we don't agree. Randall loves Dan Campbell, and I love that he watches this show on a regular basis. Just because I don't agree with about 98% of the things he thinks in life. But this show needs to get back to its roots, okay? And that's what we're going to do over the course of this next month. And we're going to start talking about other things and not just the Saints. Sometimes it's hard, man. And I realized this week and the last 2 weeks before now with Thanksgiving and the bye week, we had 2 weeks in a row where we only had 2 shows. And it's not as hard when you're only doing 2 shows, but when you're trying to put together 4 shows in a week, and we're supposed to talk about what matters most to local sports fans here, sometimes it's a national story. And that's what we need to get back to, because when you're trying to come up with topics for a 4-8 football team, it's just not something that everyone's interested in all the time. I'm not even interested in it all the time. There's just so many things you could say. I mean, look, Monday show, Mono y Monday is always going to take care of itself, right? Taysom got hurt, and that was the easy show to do. Wednesday, well, I'm looking at the Giants. Friday's Larry. Super Bowl is going to be here soon. So anyway, if you want to give me ideas, you're more than welcome. You know how to get in touch with me. You can find me at Jim Derry Jr. on X. You can find me. Send me an email at Jim Derry, at jderry@theadvocate.com. You want to send me an email. You got ideas? You want this show to, you want to talk about one day? I mean, Gabe and I were saying, maybe we can make a whole Heisman show next week. I think that's a good idea. I might not be a show that everyone's interested in, but we're going to have fun because I can tell you right now, we have fun. Thursday, me, you, and Gabe can argue about the playoff selections. Okay. Kyle says he pulls for Shaw too, and I know John Forcade and me. I went to school, graduated with John's brother, Terry. The Forcades are a fun family. And then coached a little bit with Keith. I covered Keith Forcade's son, Chase, in high school. Got to know Keith a little bit. I miss the Forcades. Haven't seen them in a while. Anyway, if you got ideas, send them to me. Talk about whatever you want. Conference title games. Enjoy the weekend. Tulane tonight. High school semifinals. If you're so inclined, you can catch me on Varsity Sports Now and our final live TV broadcast of the year. I will be at the Joe Zimmerman Stadium in a very cold temps. Wind chills are going to be in the 20s and 30s tonight. Brr. Look, it's cold even for me. My partner, Jim Rapier, gets cold when it's 72, he starts bundling up. I'm not exaggerating. So he's not going to let me open the window tonight, even though I would, because I'm a sicko. Uncle Big Nick's going to come in the booth and say hello at some point. The Archbishop Shaw football, by the way, brought to you by Regis Radio Service. There's your plug for the day. That is going to wrap it up for us on this Friday. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. I want to thank Dan Campbell for providing the early entertainment. Of course, Gabe Henderson and Larry Holder. We hope you can join us again next Mono E Monday after the Giants-Saints game. Who's going to win it? I think it's going to be Saints by a large margin. Larry thinks it's going to be Saints by a little margin. We'll see who's right. Some of you think the Giants will win. I don't even know what this show's going to... Again, I don't know what this show's going to be if the Giants win. If the Saints don't win. It'll be ugly. A reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Give us likes. We like likes. We like thumbs up, but apparently they don't care anymore about our thumbs up. You'll click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live, which is Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Live at 11 a.m. Central Time. You can always catch us after the fact on our YouTube page. You can catch us after the fact wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And find a replay of the show always on NOLA.com/sports. Have a wonderful, glorious weekend. Stay warm. I don't care how you do it. It won't be easy. Find a way to stay warm. Roll wave. Who dat? See you on Monday. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.